National Weather Service in Raleigh with a briefing here. This is actually your routine Tuesday. Well, actually, it would be a Monday, delayed to Tuesday. Normally, we do these weekly briefings anyway, every Monday at 11:30. This one's actually been postponed to today due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday yesterday. So this is our Tuesday weekly briefing, but I would say it's anything but routine. So with obviously everybody's quite aware by now of a potential winter storm this weekend. We did put this slide out earlier this morning, and actually I think we even sent one out yesterday with basically so the National Weather Service prepares what's called a winter storm severity impacts sort of index, if you will, with outlying probabilities of impact and disruptions to life, right? So again, just to kind of reiterate some of the key points there on the left there, or right, I should say, we are expecting there to be plenty of cold air moving in, plenty of moisture with the front stall just to our south, and that'll set the stage for what could be one of the biggest winter storms we've had in several years. I don't want people to get overlook what the second to the last bullet there, because that might be, it's sort of a 1-2 punch, right? The first punch being the precip, but the second punch might be worse than the first punch, which is the bitterly cold air. This is an intensely strong cold air mass. So regardless of how much or what we get, probably just as equally impactful headline is how cold it's going to get after this storm departs. Now, I could see a potential scenario where if we get a lot of freezing rain out of this and we have widespread power outages, and that's followed up by wind chill values below zero, maybe even well below zero, that could end up being the bigger of the two hazards. Okay, so and that's regardless of how much snow, sleet, or freezing rain falls. Okay, so the snow and sleet and freezing rain is kind of like the shining star that's got everybody attention, but there's a just as important star that I want people to focus on, which is the bitterly cold air that's going to come after the storm. Okay, which could be compounded problematically by the lack of power that people may experience. Okay, so in this slide, which we sent out earlier today, kind of highlights that. But this is just during the storm. It's going to be even colder than this early next week. Okay. So let's keep that in mind as well. All right, so a couple data sets I thought I would share, and this is courtesy of Tomer Berg and Polar Weather. I just want to show the setup for this, and there are a tremendous number of websites out there that kind of do the same thing and show the same thing. But I just want to kind of walk you through the storm. Clearly, this is hard to put in a briefing slide, if you will. So that's why we do these briefings, to show you the stuff that we may or may not be able to put in those slides. But anyway, we've got high pressure outside right now. Laura, do you see any clouds in the sky?
Nope.
Nope. That's an easy forecast, right? Beautiful weather today. Not a single cloud in the sky, and that's thanks to high pressure right over us. And I will point out the 1035 is the strength of the high. That's a pretty strong high in itself. So pretty chilly air mass over us right now. Okay, so this is valid basically this evening, and this is valid during the day tomorrow. The high is going to move offshore like they do. These weather patterns come and go, right? So what you can see behind it is the couple things I want to point out is the next cold front right there, and it's not unusual to have precip out ahead of that cold front. And of course, there's another cold front gathering energy back here. So this is the weather system that we're going to be watching. There's another weather system somewhere out over the Pacific that's going to play into to developing this this storm system. Let me just change, if you will, allow me just a second here to change the way we're looking at this. I want to put the precipitation type on here. because you know, while we do have cold air over us now, we should be warm enough that when this front does come through on Thursday, most of this snow should stay to our north. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to point that out, and that is actually demonstrated in this model simulation as we go through essentially Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. Notice how that rain kind of falls apart, right? See how it just kind of goes away, poof, it's gone. That's not unusual given the dry air mass over us right now. It's pretty dry, right? You look up, you don't see a cloud in the sky. That's thanks to dry air. Okay, and then when precip comes over the mountains, that helps to kind of dry it up as well too. So we may not see any precip with this initial front, cold front that's coming over, coming through at this point in time. But what I really, really want to draw your attention to is this right here. 1,054 millibar high. That is insanely high. I mean, the higher those air mass, high pressure is, generally the colder the air mass. And look how expansive it is. It stretches all the way down, you know, to the Midwest and Central Plains and up against the Appalachians. But this high has got some brutally cold air with it. And that's going to be part of this setup. Okay, a perfect setup, if you will, almost for a big winter storm. So I don't expect a whole lot of precip with this front and this change of air mass Thursday. You know, again, you see a couple green dots on here. There could be a few sprinkles, but certainly not a drought buster, right? This is Friday morning again. That front, you'll notice it's slowing down, right? Here it is right here. It's not making much progress. Yet this 1047 high is you know, building eastward and southward. And one of the things we always talk about is to have a winter storm around here, you need to have the cold air in place first. The cold air has to be here, right? You remember this past weekend? There was a lot of concern for multiple inches of snow, and that just didn't materialize. I bet if I asked a question to this group, every one of you could probably answer why we didn't get much snow this past weekend, right? Because the cold air was not here first. The cold air came in after most of the moisture. And when the cold air is trying to catch up to the moisture, those are usually turns out to be non-events or very light events. So it's always better to have the cold air here in place first. And this is that perfect setup for that. Okay, so then let's take you through, let's see, this would be Friday evening. And then by Saturday morning, here we are Saturday morning. And there's a couple things I'll point out. That big area of high pressure is just going to keep funneling cold air. Remember, air goes around high pressure clockwise. So it's going to take all this cold air to the north and bring it in down south. Meanwhile, the front is stalled here. And anytime a front stalls, there's usually weather on either side of it. And in this case, weather that's developing just on the north side of it. I will point out these colors just so you can follow along. Blue is snow. This purple is sleet. You know, sleet, like the little ice pellets that, you know, make the tapping sound when it hits the ground. And freezing rain is this kind of this purple, no, this pink, sorry, pink color. Pink is freezing rain, purple is sleet, and blue is the snow, okay? So anyway, let's continue to go forward. So that's Saturday morning. This is basically Saturday evening, and we've got tons of cold air over us. It's being reinforced by high to the north, and you see this blue shading, right? Representing snow will be underway and falling across all of North Carolina pretty much by Saturday evening. But look what happens as we head through the night, Saturday night into Sunday morning. Okay, we start to see a little, some hints of some purple getting involved here. And basically what that is I'm not gonna take your time, take your valuable time and show you the model data to demonstrate this, but I just want to draw a couple arrows to say, even though the cold air is coming in from the north, if you go about 4,000 or 5,000 feet above the ground, the air flow is generally more from the south, okay? So southerly flow is trying to bring warm air up, okay? And this is kind of like a battle zone above the ground, okay? The battle zone at the ground is further south, okay? But the battleground above the surface is occurring right here, where cold air is coming in from the north and warm air is trying to come up from the south. And when it warms up above the surface, that's what usually ends up giving us this mixed precip type, this sleet or freezing rain. Now, if you've lived in the Carolinas for any length of time, you know that that battle line of where it stays snow versus where it changes to sleet and freezing rain is usually somewhere right across central North Carolina, okay? And you know the old saying, people have always said, they always hear me saying this, along and north of I-85, it's almost always likely to stay snow there because that's further north. It's deeper into the colder air. Once you get south of I-85, that's where you start to see the warm air aloft and the precip types changing. The bottom line is it's very difficult with any storm system to maintain one precip type throughout the duration, unless you are up near the Virginia border. Then you have a better chance of seeing all snow. But once you get away from those northern counties, it's always difficult to stay one precip type through an event like this. Okay, so there is expectation that we will see a changeover or mixture to sleet or freezing rain due to that warm air coming up from the south aloft. This is one model's depiction of it. Here's a different model's depiction of it. Wait for, hang on, wait for it to load. Is it gonna load? Come on, load. There we go. Okay, so hang on here. Oh, let's go back to a run that's fully available. This is a different scenario. Okay, this particular model run, okay, it's a different model, is much more aggressive with the warm air coming up from the south, much more aggressive with this southerly flow. And it changes the P type to, this pink is freezing rain, and it changes it to freezing rain, I mean, nearly across the entire state, okay? With, again, the best chance for remaining snow would be up near the Virginia border, okay? So this is, I don't want to say a crippling ice storm solution, but if we got this much freezing rain, it would be pretty much probably one of the biggest freezing rain ice accumulation events we've had in a long, long time, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I'm not ready to say which of the two is going to happen because this model is warm aloft and this model is much colder and further suppressed. But I'll tell you this, just from experience, it almost always changes, almost always mixes with or changes south of that I-85 corridor, okay? So while that doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna have a crippling ice storm, that at some point during the event, we would more than likely see a mixture of sleet and freezing rain south of I-85, okay? And again, I don't have enough data here to say conclusively, we won't for a couple days. So I'm leaning heavily towards climatology and what has happened here in the past and that sort of thing, okay? So I don't necessarily want to show amounts, because there's so much of that already floating out there. Because I don't really want to get folks, let's just put it this way. Most of these models show double-digit snow amounts, okay? And there's some models that show a lot of ice accumulation, okay? So what can I tell you? So let's go back to this slide right here, and I think this pretty much summarizes the whole thing. And you know me, if you've watched any of my briefings, I'll get into the weeds as we get a little closer, right? But that's when you want to get into the weeds, when you're a little closer, as since we're still what, 5? How many days are we away from this? 5 days? Okay, thank you, Chrissy. So I have a live studio audience here with me, all of which are great forecasters here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So, all right, so what are we growing more confident in? A major winter storm is looking more possible, perhaps even likely this weekend, okay? And why do we feel that way? Because there should be plenty of low-level cold air in place. I mean, we didn't have that this past Saturday and Sunday, right? We sat around waiting for the snow to change over, and it never really happened until right at the very end because what was missing? The cold air. Well, this time there should be plenty of low-level cold air in place to give us wintry precip types. There's also going to be a lot of moisture with this, right? And you know what? At the end of the day, whatever falls, we desperately need a lot of moisture. Whatever it falls, because we are in such a moderate drought. So that if there's any silver lining to this storm, it's the fact that there's enough moisture. Hopefully, this could put a dent in the drought. Okay, back to the cold. Now, once this storm, whatever it's going to do, remember, it's going to be dangerously cold, especially after the storm, with wind chills possibly below zero. Imagine if a substantial number of people don't have power. Okay, let's push that message. Okay, to make sure people have a way to stay warm. Okay, and that takes me to my last bullet point. What are we growing more confident in? What we're growing confident in is that people should be gearing up right now for this storm. And what do we mean by right now? What should folks be doing? Check your home. Make sure you have batteries, flashlights. Okay, make sure you have a fire extinguisher, because you know what people are going to do. They're going to use alternate sources of heating. Make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector. If you have a generator and you're planning on using that, make sure you learn how to use it. Make sure you know how to keep it away from your home or your business, right? And that takes me to the second bullet: prepare for power outages, right? So imagine being without power for a day or two, or maybe even longer. What would you want to have, right? Check your car. If you're like me and you have to go to work, right? If you have to go to work, make sure you got everything you would need to survive if you end up getting stuck somewhere, right? Blankets, right? Water. Make sure you have an extra battery pack, the kind I'm talking about, that you can plug your cell phone into if your phone dies and you need some power. Okay, check your schedule. If it's even possible for you, if it's possible, plan to stay home. It's not possible for me. It's not. And all the public safety workers and people who I understand, everybody here on this call, probably it's not possible for you to stay home during this. But tell the folks in your sphere of influence, if you can stay home, plan to stay home for several days this weekend. Okay, and just ride it out at home. Okay. Check on your family, friends, neighbors. Help our older population who may be less capable of preparing for such a storm. All right. What are we unsure of? Okay, track of the surface flow. We say that every time. How close to the coast will it get? Will it remain all snow? Where will it mix? I just don't know that right now. There's just not enough. There's still too many atmospheric variables that have yet to be determined for me to sit here and tell you where it's going to change over. Okay, but I know there'll be plenty of freezing air at the surface. I just don't know how warm the atmosphere is going to be several thousand feet above the ground, and that's important for determining precip type. So we're still unsure of how predominant and how much sleet and freezing rain will be involved. But right now, it looks like it could be a lot. Okay. All right. How much? Okay. So it's way too soon to make a forecast. That's why I'm not even going to bother showing you the models. There's plenty of that already out there. If you want to be entertained by double-digit numbers, it's out there. I'm sure you've seen it. But there's just too many variables right now to get people too fired up about, single-digit numbers, double-digit numbers, or even partial numbers with sleet and freezing rain. Okay, it's just, we need to be focusing on potential impacts and preparation rather than how much. And then we also need to, the double-digit numbers that are floating out there on social media. I don't know if I've seen many people talking in social media world. Have you, Laura, about the cold air after this storm? Have you seen much out there? Not at all.
Crazy snow amounts.
It's crazy. Everybody's so focused on crazy snow amounts that they probably won't get it anyway, because it always changes the sleet and freezing rain. So anyway, and then finally timing. Right now it looks like the main event late Saturday through Sunday, but of course this can change. So I think this slide I'll definitely be emailing out to you, because I think this is really what we need to focus on right now. So that wraps up my prepared content and information.